Osiris.
Welcome to Flock Talk, the ultimate jam band community podcast where the grooves are endless and the vibes are infectious. Join the Femme Flock as we dive deep into the lifestyle, culture, and community of the colorful world of jam bands, everything that makes this genre truly unique. Today, we're so excited to turn the mic over to Leighton. She chats with two fellow Gen Z jam band lovers, Anna Parks and my daughter, Alex. They chat about their experiences in the jam scene, what drew them in, how they navigate the scene, and what they think the future looks like in terms of jam music for the younger generations. Take a listen for a fresh new perspective. So grab your glitter, bubble guns, and best show fit and join us on Flock Talk, where the people make the scenes sparkle.
So to start out, I would love for each guest to introduce themselves by sharing their name, where they're from, and how they got into the jam scene. So Anna, why don't we start with you?
Hey, I'm Anna. I'm from North Carolina. I got into the jam scene probably a few years ago. It was courtesy of my brother. He dragged me to my first Goose show and he was texting me. He was like, "Hey, can I come stay at your place in Wilmington? I would love to go to this concert with you. Please come. The tickets are super cheap. Let's go." And I was like, "All right, awesome. Let's go." And the rest was history. My parents, they went on Panic tour when they were around my age. So I grew up listening to them, but not really knowing that I was listening to Panic. So once I was able to really start diving into all these different just different genres of it, I was able to dive back into Panic and realize, oh my goodness, I know a lot of this music. And it was really awesome to be able to go back in and be like, wow, this is like a lot of my childhood. And so ever since then, I've kind of just been exploring different options with music while still staying true to the bands I love the most.
Awesome. I totally can relate to that. And I know that Alex can too, in terms of growing up kind of on jam music and sometimes not even realizing it. So Alex, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm from Michigan. I have also, grown up on jam band music my whole life. Always having Dead on in the background, always having Fish on. I can now, that I'm an adult and, hear it on in the car again. I'm like, wait, I actually do know these songs, subconsciously, even though I wasn't, paying attention to actually listening to them. But just hearing it all growing up and, because my mom was into it so much, it felt like I had an aversion to it at first, and I was like, no, that's not my thing. And then finally when I realized that I was actually into Goose, I was like, wait, this is actually good. So then I was like, wow, I actually do really like jam band music and I love going to the concerts and they're so much fun. So it's just I've always been around it and it's so fun to dive back in at being a young adult and rediscovering that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just to be clear for anybody listening, Alex is our beloved host, Nikki's daughter. So we're so excited to have her on and have the other perspective of things and what it was like to grow up with someone or with a parent specifically who is so involved in the jam scene. So before we get into more of the meat of things, so to speak, I would love to know if you guys have a favorite band or a favorite festival that you've been to that relates to the jam scene.
I think Goose is my favorite, especially just right now. And I've really loved getting back into listening to their older stuff because I didn't really get into it until I went to a show in 2023 was my first show. So that's been really fun having them being my favorite right now.
I honestly have not been to many festivals. I've only been to Fish Mondegreen and then Mexico, so El Gonzo. And I've been to a few little day festivals, which is super fun. But other than that, I think my favorite band would probably be Widespread. I think mostly because of the lyrics and what they sing about. It's a lot different. Some of Goose's lyrics are more poetic and it has a lot of hidden messages. And I feel like sometimes Widespread is more upfront and it's Southern morals and it's Southern ways of life. And I really enjoy how the crowd interacts with that. And it's really amazing to watch, especially from a balcony seat, and just being able to watch the crowd interact with the band is amazing.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's kind of funny because being from Atlanta, everyone around me is like, they're huge, Widespread people over Fish, but my dad always raised me on Fish. So by the time I was kind of like getting into it myself, I was like, yeah, Widespread's good, but like the whole Fish Widespread divide is pretty funny because after the Grateful Dead kind of fizzled out, then it was either people went Widespread or Fish. So it's kind of funny to see how that all plays out. But I totally agree with you on the underlying meanings and straightforward lyrics. For me, I think one of my favorite festivals that I've been to is, and this is also hometown bias, but Sweetwater 420 Fest in Atlanta. It's a great introductory festival for bands looking for new audiences, especially in the jam scene. They have a wide variety of bluegrass or traditional rock or more of a jam sense. So they have a little bit of everything. So I think if anybody is looking to go to a festival where you get a little bit of everything and an introduction to more of these bands in the jam scene, then I think that is a great option. I was going to ask about how you guys like have really decided to take the opportunity to get involved with the scene because jam bands are not necessarily mainstream. So I want to know what kept you guys involved in the community and what really drew you in more.
Honestly, I think having social media and having all of these organizations and little communities within has helped foster connections. Another big part of meeting so many people from the Goose community was going to the line. And I know that can be somewhat of a controversial topic at times, but being able to just meet so many different people that are all so excited to see the same band and getting to hear their stories and getting to hear where they've come from. I think that is where I've met most of the people I know and most of the people that I've stayed really close with.
Do you find that sense of community with Widespread at all? Because we are polyjamorous, so I want to include everyone. So if you have that involvement, I'd love to hear more about it.
I do not have that involvement in the Panic scene as much. I did start to branch out a little bit more over this past year, meeting new people, going around to the vendors, talking to people. My show days look a little different between the two. So I think it's kind of interesting of how I go into the shows. I'm a little bit more reserved when I go into the Panic shows. I kind of am just like, oh, I don't really know many people, but I'm just going to go in. And so it's kind of a different headspace going into it.
Yeah, and we'll get into show day rituals in a little bit. Alex?
I feel like before I hadn't had very much involvement, but like since I've learned that I'm actually into the jam scene and had my eyes open to like how welcoming and inviting people are, it's been so much fun meeting my mom's friends at shows and meeting so many cool people that like I would have never met outside of this community. And going to the flow downs before the shows are super fun and definitely a fun way to meet new people and the vendors. And it's awesome because like the vendors, her name is Nora. She makes like shirts and stuff. She's super sweet and such a nice person. I'm just so lucky and feel grateful to be able to meet these cool people through such a fun community.
I totally agree. And it's funny too, because obviously I talk with Nikki so much during the week. And then the first time I met Alex was in Grand Rapids. And I remember she was like, Mom, like you're hanging out with people my age. And it's funny because it's so hard to find that at our age, yet there are parts of the community that feel so welcoming. They're like, oh, we don't care what age you are. Come on. And they admire you for coming in this young at this age, especially when It's like our parents who were doing the same thing at our age, but they had a bigger group. So it's amazing to see how many people are inclusive in certain scenes. And I know it varies per band. Like, for example, love Fish, but it's a little bit intimidating, especially since it's so male dominated. So having communities in the jam scene in different realms that do bring us in more, it establishes more of our presence, which is really nice, and it allows us to be seen as fans and as people who truly enjoy the music and know what they're talking about, which I think is very important. So this might be a silly question, but let's just get into it. Do y'all prefer the big, larger shows, arenas, stadiums, or more of an intimate club show? Because I know there are a lot of jam bands right now that are kind of hitting this point where they're still in these smaller, not arenas, but in these smaller theaters, clubs, but you know that they're about to boom. What do you guys think? What do you prefer?
I really like the small, intimate ones, like especially just like indoor venues in general, especially for Goose, like going to the Grand Rapids shows, being there was so cool, especially being so like close. It felt very intimate and I really liked it. And Cincinnati kind of had that vibe. And then I went to Indy last year and it was my first outdoor Goose show. And it just like, I was on the lawn. It was like oh, I'll just go for fun, like real quick trip. So we were on the lawn and like it was fun, but it like wasn't as much fun as I've had as like the indoor ones with like Grand Rapids felt like a dance party. Like it was so fun. So I've really enjoyed those ones, but I've also seen them at a few like bigger indoor ones and it definitely still like has a fun dancey vibe for sure and just the lights are so cool. That's definitely one of my favorite parts is the lights. Like being able to just kind of like zone out and look at the lights is so fun and I feel like indoors in the small intimate ones it just like is a little bit better than the outdoor ones.
I can definitely agree that Grand Rapids was a dance party. And I definitely think that because of the size and how close the balcony was, it was not very deep. And they were so close to the stage that like I was looking up in the balcony and I was looking at like all my friends up there and I could see them and they could see me and we were dancing together and it was so much fun. And I do agree that I really do like these small settings. When I went to Fish Mondegreen, that was probably the largest crowd I had been around. I don't exactly remember the number. And that was the most energy I've ever felt in my life. And everyone there was ready for it. They were ready. They were all in. I can't describe the feeling of moving with all of these people. It felt like we were just like one unit and it was insane. And I cannot compare that to any other feeling, but I have yet to feel that again. So we shall see.
That's awesome. And I think you bring up a really good point too, that you indirectly bring up a really good point that we're not just going to local shows. We are traveling to see these bands. We're traveling to chase that feeling, that energy, and it does refuel us in a way. And there's a reason that we keep going back. And on that note, Anna, you might have just shared this, but what has been your most memorable show moment so far?
Probably my most memorable show moment. Oh, this is a hard question, but really good question. I think it would probably be Cincinnati New Year's Goose. I think that was going into 2024, I believe. I'm not sure. I was still fresh into the scene. And so I was still new to everything. I was meeting all of these new people. This is when I really started to dive into the community. And when it hit midnight, I forget what jam they were doing. I forget everything that was happening, but I was just in this like bliss. It was incredible. And I don't think I've ever felt that sense of community at a show since then.
I can't wait until I can go to a New Year's Eve show because especially after like listening back on this past year, I cannot wait. I have to go this year. I've decided.
You have to go. You will not regret it, I promise.
So much love in the air, so much happiness. The energy is unmatched. You know, everyone can kind of go through shows and everyone can have a bad day, but it's New Year's Eve. Everyone's ready to have a good time.
Yeah, and one of the girls I met at a show literally 2 weeks before at Goosemas, I didn't have a group to go with. She was like, come with me, come. We went the first night, had a great time, and the second night, and I feel like this perfectly encapsulates what we are seeking and what we're all about. But she was just walking around the floor, handing out not tarot cards, but intention cards. And she was like, pull your card, it'll be your intention for the new year. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. Thank you so much. The energy is totally different. I'm with in on this. So Alex, definitely plan on doing that, but continue.
That's such a cool story. That's so cool to hand out intention cards for the new year. That's such a good idea.
And what's been your most memorable show moment so far?
So far, I haven't been to, I think I'm on like 8. I'm still on my single digits right now for goose shows, but I think out of that, it would have to be Valentine's Day this year in Grand Rapids. Like specifically, Don't Leave Me This Way. Like the dance party, the everyone hands in the air dancing, and then like the energy, and then them coming back out and like still like being able to feel that energy for the encore for Hot Tea was like insane. It was so awesome, and that's definitely been like my most memorable thing that has like been in my head that I can't wait to like go back and get that feeling again.
Yeah, that's awesome. When I was writing this question, I was like, wait, what would my answer be? And it took me a long time to really think about it. And I really get stuck between Red Rocks 2023 when I went with my dad. We went for my 20th birthday, and there were just so many like little God moments and signs that happened. And I was like, this is just like, it's meant to be. But then I go to Goosemas this year, and night 2, it was just one of those experiences where I was like blown away completely. I could not, there were just moments where the confetti would shoot out, and I was there with one of my old friends who I don't get to see all that often. And it was just one of those moments where it really felt like everything was written in the stars. Everything was how it should be. So I know that's a hard question. So thank you all for trying to answer that with me. So let's get into what our generation is claimed to be all about, which is social media. So Gen Z is very digital. We like TikTok. We use Reddit. We find the set list online. We're constantly scrolling through Instagram. Do y'all think that social media has changed the jam band community for better or for worse?
I feel like it's a combo of both. I feel like it's made it more like accessible to people that don't get to go to shows or that are like not near where they're coming to play. But especially with like the set list stuff and being able to go to like El Goose and finding all the set list, being able to track your own shows, like I was like, this is a thing. Like I cannot believe it was so like advanced, I guess it felt like for like jam band stuff. I was like, wait, this is actually really cool that somebody like took the time to make this. But also like I feel like when I hear stories about how concerts used to be and like how you had to send in mail to get tickets, like do the art and stuff on your envelope so that you get tickets. Like that's a really cool thing. And like now we're all waiting on countdowns on our laptops and phones to try and get tickets instead. Like I feel like it's cool that it's kept up with the times, and I feel like it's just, I don't know, it just fits well with like where we're at right now. I feel like it's kind of, there's pros and cons on each side.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like most things relating with the internet have pros and cons in any subject. I think one of the coolest things is I think I've explored and been able to find a love for so much more music than I even knew was out there. You're able to get exposed to so many different types of music, so many different festivals, different types of art, and so many different things surrounding the scenes that you can really stay involved even if you aren't able to make it to shows. Another thing that came to mind was vending. I know a lot of people vend full time, so it's really awesome that they can go and put all their stuff up on Etsy, and you can go back and you like walk all the shops, and you can go through and you're like, oh, I want this, but I don't know if I want to carry that around with me for the show, something like that. You can go back and buy it later. And I think it's really awesome that you can support these people even if you can't do it right then and there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that it's also a great way. I mean, I think a lot of the judgment or the assumptions are that people our age just go because it might be the cool thing to do. Like how people might go see Dead and Company because it's custy or it's cool. It's cool on the surface, but they're not really into it. And I think that I understand that perspective, but also because I mean, I have friends, and I'm sure that y'all do too, that will rock the Rolling Stones shirts or the Grateful Dead shirts or the Led Zeppelins. And you're like, oh, I didn't know that you were a fan. They were like, oh, no, I am not. It's just cool to have this. But we are combating that because since we are going, we're posting these things, we're showing people that we are listening. We're not just posting it to be like, oh, we're here, we're doing this, we're checking the box. No. That's not what we're doing at all. And with that, it's so much easier to find different people, different acts, just like you said, Anna. And I know that they're a little bit older than us, but one of my favorite things are the meme accounts. And I think we just have to address it. Like Long Strange Putt, he makes the funniest things and finds ways for everybody to connect to it, new or old. And then also we have Cam, who is so funny, makes all these videos. He's drawing in a new crowd. He's appealing to everyone. And I think it's a huge tool that the bands who are leveraging it correctly, they are seeing the return on it. And the community is seeing the return on it. So I think that's been hugely beneficial more than it has been worse. And in terms of finding that new music, are you guys sharing this music with your friends? Because I know with a lot of my friends, they don't really listen to my music. And all throughout high school, I told them, I was like, you guys should listen. You'll listen more in college. And now they're starting to listen more. But still, now that we are in college and we're developing in or out of college and we're really developing our music taste, what are you guys doing to share music? And furthermore, what are you doing to discover new music?
A lot of my friends don't really listen to jam music. A lot of people, they'll listen to alternative, a lot of rap, a lot of country too, in North Carolina on the coast. That's just the way it is. It took me a while to realize that I can try to get my friends to listen to it, but they won't always enjoy it, and that's okay. And I feel like for the longest time, I was like, this is so awesome. Like, guys, look, this is so awesome. I want everyone to experience that. And it's with their own time. And some people don't ever experience that, or they don't want to, or they experience it in a different way that isn't jam music. They experience it in so many different avenues. And so I think it's really interesting that, like, majority of the people that I know in college do not listen to similar music. But when Goose dropped Dustin Hoffman and Iguana song in Your Direction, all my friends were like, oh. And I know that those songs were a little biased because they got a little mainstream rep. And some people were like, I'm not sure if I like this, or it sounds kind of radio. But I think that it can really also help bring in more people. And then they're like, okay, I can listen to this. And then they start digging a little bit deeper. I can listen to 15-minute jam. Oh, I can dig a little deeper. And next thing you know, they might be somewhere totally different than they thought they were.
Absolutely. And what are you doing, before we get into Alex's perspective, what are you doing personally to find new music, if anything?
The biggest thing would probably be nugs, just seeing what shows are happening, what shows are on. If they're live streaming anything, I'll throw something on. Instagram and Facebook are really good ways to find new music, and also just going to the venue that's in Wilmington and just buying a ticket and going.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think people do not take advantage of Spotify and Apple Music enough. Like the different playlists, like discover new music. Listen to it just once a week, just for a little bit. Expand your musical taste buds. Yeah, I'm totally with you. And I think that getting out and getting involved is very important. Alex?
I also like to listen to some of like the Apple Music playlists that are like curated, especially like when Goose was releasing their singles and they were ending up on those playlists. I would play that whole playlist that's kind of has the similar vibe and like found a couple things that I liked. So I agree, definitely like just listening to something new like every once in a while. Definitely the social media, finding new music through like for some reason, I keep finding it on Instagram a lot. Like, I'll see reels of different bands, and I'll be like, oh, I really like that. So, I've definitely been finding it on there, but I've been trying to, like, share the songs more, like, on my social media, like, posting it to my story and, like, having people hear it. Because, like, if you're listening to people's stories going through it, like, you're gonna hear it whether you want to or not. So I want you to hear your direction. So I also like the songs that have been coined more radio songs. I actually really like those because I also think that they like can bring in more people into the scene and have them dig deeper because I did kind of the same thing. Like I listened to just stuff that was on Apple Music and then I listened to the live albums and then actually listened to the jams. And going in that way was really good. It felt like discovering it more and more.
Sometimes it feels more organic when you can start off with something that's a little bit slower, maybe something that's a little bit shorter too, something that your brain can absorb a little bit quicker. And it really can lead you to some great places. I agree with that.
Go, Alex. Go for it.
I was just gonna say, I feel like trying to introduce it to like my friends and like my coworkers, I feel like we talk about music a lot. And every time I feel like I'm like, hey, you should listen to Give It Time by Goose because I just feel like that song has such a good vibe to it that like everyone can kind of relate to. So I kind of like throw that little bone out there and I have gotten a few people to like listen a little bit more to it and I'm like, yeah, I see you. So I feel like just throwing out a little bit to the people that I talk to the most, but I mean, a lot of them listen to more like rap, hip hop kind of music, so like I'll take what I can get if they just listen to Give It Time, but like at least they're trying to listen to new music, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. And I actually, when I was home recently, I don't go home all that often, but I was home back in Atlanta and somebody came up to me and they were like, oh my gosh, the Goose song that you like added on your Instagram post, I've never heard it. And ever since I heard it, I've been listening to it. So that's a little cheat sheet hack if anybody's ever trying to spread some new music. Let's move on to the next section. So the jam band culture, especially beginning with the Dead, historically has been very male heavy. Do you guys feel like the scene is becoming more inclusive for different identities and backgrounds? Do you feel comfortable going to shows as a woman at our age? I'd love for y'all to expand more upon your experiences.
I definitely agree with what you said earlier with like Fish feels a little intimidating. Like when I went to the shows that I think they came and played Van Andel, like it felt definitely a little different than what I was used to. But like I feel like once we got into the music, it was better than I thought it was gonna be. But when I go to like a Goose show, it feels like there's more diversity that I see there than like what I've seen at Fish shows. And definitely I feel like I see more women and more people of all ages instead of just like the basic middle-aged man.
Yeah, I do really like Goose's mix they have going on. I really would, of course, love to have some more people our age, but I'm sure that will come with time. Widespread has a ton of people our age that are in there, girls and boys. And I thought that's really interesting. Mainly, I think because of UGA, Panic is super big. And it's really interesting to see how through that band, there aren't very many generational gaps like you see in other scenes. And so I think that's interesting. But I do think that Goose is able to appeal to girls unlike most jam bands. I think that their lyrics and their energy and the music that they put out is appealing to a larger genre.
Yeah, somebody else that I think is very important to acknowledge is Daniel Donato's Cosmic Country. Like, such a diverse scene, and in terms like gender wise, it's not like there's definitely more of a balance and kind of a little bit more of like, yes, it's country, but also there's so many different pulls from all different directions. And like, for example, Sugarleg, the keyboardist, they, the first time I saw Cosmic Country, I was like, I can't tell if that's a boy or a girl or if they identify as they. And that was the best part because so many people around me were very like inclusive and welcoming and nobody really cared, which is the nice thing because I feel like that's something that we have to overcome, especially in this scene that's very homogenous. So Daniel Donato's Cosmic Country is a great example of that. And I feel like they're doing a great job of being very inclusive, and kind of tying in a traditional country scene that's very white and southern and proper and kind of putting their own spin on it with the jam culture and just kind of who they are as people and individuals, which I think is really cool. So as Gen Z, do you guys think that we're changing the vibe of the typical jam culture, whether it be the clothes, the outfits, the activities, or do you think we're keeping it those traditions alive?
I think that for generally speaking, there's so much that has stayed the same, even in terms of clothing, even in terms of like the way people dance or the way people travel or the way people do these shows. And I think it's really interesting to be able to watch and to be able to see all of these norms be passed down through these generations. I think it's really awesome that we're able to get past the torch on that. And we can also add our own spin on it. I don't know if they had Catter Day then, maybe, but so we kind of have our fun little either activities or like show rituals that we've added or created, or we probably stole from someone that did it years ago. Who knows? But it's really awesome to be able to add a spin on all of these things that have been passed down.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Anna. It feels like it's very like traditional kind of in the way that things have been passed down through generations, but I think that's super cool that like it's kind of stayed the same, but we do each generation has their own like little touch that they've put on this community and scene that we've seen come together. I just think it's really cool that people of all ages can come together and kind of all have the same vibe with the same clothes. And I feel like I haven't seen too many crazy like Gen Z outfits, but if y'all have pictures of them, I'd love to see.
I got a couple.
Yeah, we might need to put together a collage and show those on our Instagram. But going off of what you said, have you ever been underestimated in the scene or at a show because of your age? The heavy hitting question. What are your answers?
I feel like I definitely get kind of like looks, especially like if I'm kind of coming through, like especially like behind my mom, like once you get to like your spot and you're standing there, like the groups of guys that are like in front of you, they're all like kind of staring back at you, like who are these people? And it's like okay, fine, and then like we're the only ones dancing and actually having fun. Like okay, look at us all you want, but we're the ones that are actually coming out having fun. And doing what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, I think the first thing that came to mind was space. I think that it's a common theme for sometimes people when they're trying to kind of go up towards the front or trying to go up there. And sometimes I feel like every single time the person will come and stand right behind me. And I'm like, do I have a sign on me that says, like, come stand in my space? And so I think in the sense of that, it might be, oh, she's younger. She probably won't say anything. Oh, she probably is just in her own, yeah, she probably won't notice or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but I have noticed that that is a very common theme. And I think that speaking up, whether it's about either that or someone acting inappropriately or anything surrounding those things, even standing up, some people are like, oh, what? Like, I didn't know she was going to speak up about that. So I think it's really interesting how shocked sometimes people get when you do say, hey, that's not cool.
Yeah, I think that's really impressive to hold your ground, especially as like a 22-year-old female in the scene. And like for me, there have been so many times where I've gone to a Fish show, I've gone to Billy Strings, I've gone to Green Sky Bluegrass, and people will look at me and they're like, what is this 21-year-old girl doing here? And I've literally had people ask me, why are you here? Like as if I shouldn't be there. But I explain, listen, I grew up on this music. I have a love of it for myself. And people don't really see that. And then all of a sudden the music starts playing and I know more words than they do. Or I call a song before it takes them whole chorus to realize what song it is. And they're like, shit, like she knows what she's talking about. So don't underestimate us. We know what we're doing,
I know
even if we look young.
it really is a shame because I'm like, we could be friends. Instead of creating this divide between us, we could be friends.
Absolutely. And on that note, Anna, can you explain the difference in your show days or your show rituals when you're at a goose show per se versus a panic show?
Yeah, honestly, the show days are pretty different between the two. For Goose, a big part of either going to the line or going to flow down or going to wherever all of my friends are is because I'm traveling and I'm meeting up with all of these people that I don't get to see often. So I'm spending all of this time with them. And for Panic, it's a little bit different. I'm a little bit more reserved. I kind of roll in right at showtime, which is insane. And I normally go for like the balcony all the way up in the top. It is a party back there. And normally for Goose, I meander up towards the front. And I think it's really interesting how I have two completely different experiences that are so incredible to me in such different ways, but I do them completely different.
Alex?
My show day is very like chill in the beginning. I like to get my sleep, definitely. But then I like to have my outfit kind of pre-planned before show day. I don't like to be choosing what I'm wearing the day of. That's just too stressful for me. So I like to have something curated in my head or laid out already that I want to do, and then I normally just do like the same kind of makeup, and then I'll meet up with my mom if she's going. Well, she's normally going with me. So I meet up with her, and of course, she brings the glitter. So then I get glitterified, of course.
You
And
have
Bubbles.
to.
Of course. Yes, the bubbles and the
Hmm.
Nikki is all bubbles and glitter. And I love doing the glitter. I think it's so fun. And then I just kind of make sure I have my little show bag with me, and then I take that, and I love to go to the flow down before, and then definitely make sure I grab something to eat before the show, because being at a show when you're hungry is not great. Like, you're trying to have fun, but no, definitely eating something before is important on show day. And then making sure that I'm staying hydrated as well, because I don't like to drink a ton of stuff at the show because I hate having to go to the bathroom. I hate like having to navigate through everyone. It's that is the worst part about going to a show is like having to navigate through people. It's like my social anxiety's worst nightmare right there. But like it's worth it in the end. So I'd like to limit that and not have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think the only thing that I would add to y'all's like show day rituals would be, I mean, personally, I like to go on a little walk, get the blood flowing in the morning, especially if there was a show the night before and it's like a 2 or 3 night run. That's how I have to kind of pull myself back together and feel like a human being again, touch grass, as they say. Um, and then also cacao ceremonies. I highly encourage y'all to try them. And anybody who's listening, it is such a great way to go into the show day with intention and connection and community. And it really like just kind of like pulls at the heartstrings a little bit and makes you so much more receptive to the music. So I highly recommend that to anybody. You can check out Hannah and Kate, our girls. They are touring with bands. I think that's been a really cool thing to add. Do you guys have an absolutely atrocious or an absolutely hilarious crowd experience?
No, I have more shows lined up, so something's bound to happen.
Okay, so bringing back Red Rocks 2023. Yeah, so we were pretty like halfway up all the stairs, and this guy was above us, and he was probably like middle aged, and he started like kind of like falling everywhere, and we're like, uh-oh, like this kind of only usually ends one of two ways, and he ended up falling forward onto us. And since it's like these rocks, he starts bleeding everywhere. There's like blood on like our sweatshirts and like our stuff. It's so horrible. And then, so this is in the middle of a song and we're all like, medic, like freaking out, running. And I'm not used to the altitude. So like, I'm so out of breath. I'm like trying to run. I like can't run. And, so then the medic gets there, and then he actually ended up being pretty involved in that department. So they were all like, "Oh, buddy!" And so we were all just like, "What just happened?"
That is wild. That is crazy. I mean, the only thing that I can think of is when my dad and I were at the Sphere for Dead & Co. and we were way up in the 400s. It's so steep. There are 2 kids in front of us, maybe a couple years younger than myself, and God knows what they were on. No social awareness, no spatial awareness. I mean, flailing around, hitting everybody in circles. And several times people were like, hey, buddy, like, let's pipe down. And the friend was like, okay, calm down, calm down. Wouldn't stop. Friend started to be a smartass and talked back to my dad. I forget what he said exactly, but he was like, I'll do whatever the fuck I want. Or he said, like, I'll dance. He was like, I don't need to be in, I don't know. He was just going on a ramble and was like being a smartass to my dad. Turns back around, totally loses his balance, falls backward down onto a pregnant lady.
Oh my goodness.
Everyone around was like, done, over it. He had to walk of shame his ass back up to the seats, sits down, finally, and then everybody's like, dude, are you not going to apologize to that lady? She's literally pregnant.
Oh my goodness. That's wild.
Last question, very quick. What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone our age who is curious about getting into the jam band world?
My biggest piece of advice would probably be just because people your age aren't doing it, that should not steer you away from it. You are able to meet so many people in these scenes and you are able to create your own memories. And I don't let the limitations of other people limit you from doing what you want to.
Reach.
My piece of advice would be to just go and experience. Like, even if you don't have someone that's gonna go with you, or you and your friend don't really know much about the band, if you still go, you're probably gonna have fun. And the scene is becoming so much more inclusive and welcoming that it's going to be fun no matter what. So just go and get out there and do it.
Totally agree. Thank you guys so much for coming on and sharing your stories and experiences with us. It really is important to our generation and to the rest of the jam scene that we make our presence known. And not only are we listening, but we are truly engaging with the community, with the music, and we do want the legacy to live on and to overall thrive in the future. So thank you all so much. Flock on, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thank you.
This pod is made by women for everyone. We wouldn't be here without you, and we want to hear from you. If you want to get involved with the Femme Flock, fill out our Get Involved form on our website, thefemmeflock.com. That's FEMME. We are currently building a street team of folks across the country of all ages and backgrounds who love spreading the word about inclusivity and fun. Tag us on socials if you're dancing at a show with your crew, showing off your outfit, hosting or attending a community event, or promoting something you think we'd love. If it's for the community, we're here for it and we want to see it. The space is for everyone, and we're so excited you're a part of it. Don't forget to follow along with the Femme Flock on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky, or join our Reddit community. Talk to y'all soon, and flock on.
Osiris.